Finding the right real estate property for your home or business can be confusing and offer a lot of questions. Should I buy? Is it time to sell? How do I get the right price? Can I find a bargain? Condo or house? We're here to answer the tricky questions you have, like, are investment properties a good idea? Is this the right location for my business? Can I afford it? Can I get a mortgage for that? And what's best for us? We'll help answer your questions and more right here on Real Estate on the Radio, presented by Keller Williams. And welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of Real Estate on the Radio. I'm Dave Long, sitting in the big seat today to discuss what is a very exciting topic for people who are at that stage in their life, and that is advice for first-time buyers. And to talk about that topic, we have an all-star panel. First time this group has been together because Laura Gamache from Keller Williams, a broker agent, is making her debut. Laura, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your business, and what do you specialize in?
Well, I definitely more or less specialize in the first-time home buyers, being more associated with a younger population. So good part of 80% of my business actually is working with buyers, and majority of those being first-time home buyers. Okay, great, and welcome to the program. Beth Decato-Bolio is here. She is also a broker agent at Keller Williams, specializes in selling to veterans or helping veterans find new homes. But Beth, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Kristi Whitten is with us again, and also does a great deal of work in first-time buyers. Kristi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. And Andy Gould, the resident legal expert on the program from Gould & Gould law firm in, all over the world, but Londonderry in particular, and also Monarch Title Company, which is spreading as well. Andy, welcome.
Hi, Dave.
To the program.
Thanks.
How are you?
Thanks. Great. You?
Good to see you. All right, a couple of news items first that I wanted to get on. One is good news for those who are looking to buy. After the last couple of weeks, we've talked about what the Fed Chairman Janet Yellen has said about interest rates might tick up and go toward 5% eventually. They did the opposite this week. The 30-year mortgage dropped to a low of 3.69%, and a 15-year rate, which is popular with people who are doing refinance, is at 2.96. That's good news, right? Could it be bad news in any way?
No, it's great news.
It's good news across the board.
I would think so. So maybe we're bucking the trend, and everybody's a little bit too nervous about interest rates, and but that means it's a great time to buy. Correct?
I also read somewhere this week unemployment is below 4% in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I don't know where they get that stat from necessarily, because there are people not on the radar sometimes, but I think in New Hampshire that's probably a pretty accurate stat, unlike other big cities. And
that's Clinton era-esque, like it was in the 90s, so when it was just, you couldn't, it was buyer's paradise for people who were looking for a job, or seller's paradise for people who were looking for a job. All right, and the other thing is our house of the week. I noticed this John Bon Jovi is selling his condo, I think it's condo in Manhattan, 7,600 square feet, 6 bedrooms, a chef's kitchen, and a wood-burning stove for the mere price of $37 million in New York. What would that go for here?
150
million, I hope.
All right, let's first things first. One of the things that I think holds people back, or at least gives them pause to buy their first home, consider buying their first home. There's things that they don't know about, and one of which is they believe that owning a home is financially much more expensive than renting an apartment or a condo. So, Laura, we'll go to you for the first question. Can you get into a new home for less than you can for renting a condo or an apartment?
At this point, there are so many other loan options that are out there at this time that you can purchase a home with no money down. Obviously, there's a lot of criteria that fall under that, given that you obviously need a job as well. But there are many programs out there right now that you absolutely could own a property and have your mortgage rate equivalent to, if not possibly less than what you would pay for a monthly rental.
Kristi, what kind of, the rents that I look at, I was scanning through the paper, it's like $900 a month to $1,500 a month, kind of an average rent for based, for townhouse and condos and that kind of thing. For $1,500 a month, what kind of house could someone get into, or a condo?
Honestly, with an average, property tax rate of about $5,000 on a house, you're at $215 with your mortgage, your interest, and your property taxes. So, I mean, right there, you could have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with your own yard and your own driveway and, the whole thing for what you're paying for rent, without question. And then you get, there's write-off benefits to that a lot of people aren't, necessarily being able to take advantage of when they're paying rent on a property. You can write off your PMI in many cases, and you can write off your property taxes in many cases. So, the benefit to that is definitely very large.
Just don't go with the standard deduction and the IRA when you're filing your taxes. You're getting interest, you're getting your property taxes, you're getting, So
right.
in a home like that, you're probably interest rates are a little bit lower now, but you're probably somewhere around $13,000 in deductions alone that you may not look. What kind of locations, Beth, can someone are these kind of properties available in? Everywhere, or are there certain places that are better first-time buyer locations around here, would you say?
Well, I would go with a general statement saying that they are everywhere. If you look close. I just ran some numbers on a gentleman who is renting in Manchester. He is renting a home that is it's a 3-family, and it has 650 square feet, and he is paying $750 a month. Then all of his utilities are separate. We just found him a home for $177,000 in Manchester, with him escrowing his taxes, his insurance, and putting 0% down because he is a veteran. He is looking at a mortgage of $1,146, and he will have those advantages, such as what Kristi said, where he can write off the interest. So this gentleman looks at a situation where he's not earning any equity. He's not taking advantage of a market when he's renting with low interest rates. And he's actually going to be putting more money in his pocket and building up his future instead of helping someone build their future.
Right. Obviously, if you're paying that $1,500 and you're renting, that's just going to the person who owns the property, the investor who's got it, and as opposed to putting up $1,500 over a 6-year period, you can set up a mortgage and something. You're looking at, I think if my math's correct, somewhere, well, I guess the interest figures into it. But you're paying, it's like a savings account, really, in the long run. I mean, that's how I never really looked at it in the beginning when I first bought a home, but that's really, in a sense, what a home is, a savings account that appreciate as well as the market goes up.
Yeah. And something else to kind of throw out there, when you're renting, let's say you're moving into a new rental and it's $1,500 a month, you're out of pocket $3,000 to get into that rental. And then $1,500 is due the very next month, and so on and so forth. When you buy a house, if you can get into an RD, which is a rural development program, or a zero down program, or VA loan situation, and put zero down, and we can get a seller paid concession for your closing costs, you can get into the property for potentially less than $1,500. So in that respect, from a liquid cash perspective, a lot of times it's easier than what people think. People just kind of assume that it's easier to rent and to get into a rental, when in all actuality, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's cheaper to get into a mortgage situation. Let's take the average property. You close on, we'll say, April 15th, and your first payment's not due until June.
Right, that's the other thing I was going to say. So you've got like that 2-month lag as well in not having to pay any monthly payment.
And that's a pretty big deal. I mean, that allows you that, $1,500 that you were going to put towards your rental payment to go out and buy curtains and paint and do some, frou-frou stuff on the house. And that's the fun stuff. That's what you want to do. In
my case, a large, big screen TV.
Well, that too.
Andy, what are some things that people should know about that they're first-time buyers from a legal perspective? And the other thing I want to ask is about, I don't think people understand exactly what a title is, or at least
Sure.
I know
Yeah.
I didn't. I always kind of figured title is just like.
Well, it's almost like an unnecessary evil that people look at to
Right.
some degree as part of the closing costs. And,
Right.
what is
There's
a
that-
title
there's that line
company?
there, you go,
What
what
is
do you
a
need?
title attorney? Why do I even need them? And we're coming into the process through the lender or the agent. But it's really important if you're a first-time buyer to have that. You obviously want good agents and professionals to rely on, mortgage person. But it's also, they have a team usually of confident team players, and we're one of those. And if you're going through an agent and these ladies can attest to that, or a broker, a mortgage loan officer, you should also get connected with the title person. Title is really your history of your property that you're buying.
See, I always
And-
thought it was like a deed in the
Yeah,
beginning.
well, the
before
deed is the ownership.
Right.
But the title is also talks about the prior history of that property. And not a lot of people often, I'm surprised that people at a closing, in the purchase and sale process don't even get a copy of the deed that shows a lot of things on what the title is subject to. Easements, restrictions, neighborhood covenants. It's good to get all that information up front as much as you can. In the purchase
What are
and
those,
sale,
what are those easements, covenant? What are those?
well, if
what does
you're
that
if
mean?
you're in a neighborhood, there could be covenants that say you can't put air conditioners in the window, for one instance, or you
Yeah.
can't have chickens running around in the
Or
yard.
that's like big.
That's
those
an-
things in a condo. you've got
Yeah.
all kinds
Now,
of
some of these
restrictions.
are looked at, not even sort of monitored in essence, unless somebody complains. But they are covenants that run with the land. So you should know when you're buying as a first-time buyer what the deed looks like. You should get a copy of the seller's deed and understand that. And most good agents will share that, or it'll be part of the listing. But I had a construction loan come up recently where they got under agreement for the land, then they're going to build, and they didn't even know what the deed said, and it is a proposed deed. They get it right after they sign the agreement, and there's all this stuff on there. So, they're asking me, what is all this? So it's important to have a proactive sense of that. And in your purchase and sale, there's actually a provision when they sign a contract that the buyer has X amount of days to review easements, restrictions. Most people don't take advantage of that, but it's good to have a connection to the title attorney. When we get the title, I feel like, not all agents, not all loan officers, not all attorneys or real estate title companies are created equally or perform equally. So it's good to have one that's proactive, that you can connect with, or they can reach out to you once the title's done. I basically tell people, hey, here's the title, the agent, and this is we're good to go. There's no issues. But if there are issues, I like to be proactive about that and lay it out there. But a lot of title companies, you close, you don't even know what your title's subject to. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It happens all the time.
All right, why don't we leave that there? We'll come back and ask you how our broker agents on the panel, how they deal with that, and what your first advice is for someone who is going to consider buying, or is ready to jump in and start looking for their first home. We'll do that in just a minute.
I'm Kristi Whitten of Keller Williams in Bedford. I love helping people find the perfect home, like Cindy Ripsick.
Kristi is a home buyer's dream agent, extremely knowledgeable, invested in meeting your needs, timely in her response, dedicated to helping you make a sound investment, and she's fun to be around. Knowing she was my advocate in an anxious time made it much easier.
So, if I can help you with your next move, please give me, Kristi Whitten, a call at 603-674-4985 or look me up at KristiWhitten.com.
Bill Weidecker of Keller Williams in Bedford.
The real estate business technologically certainly has changed as the internet has become a very helpful tool. But the human role hasn't changed at all in my 29 years of helping people find the best home for them, and it can't be replaced. What I do is interpret all the information, give perspective, and solid opinions as to what you ought to do, and the internet can't do that. So if you're looking to buy or sell, give me, Bill Weidecker, a call at 661-7818 or look me up on the web at kw.com.
You've worked hard, paid your bills, but now you may need legal help. Have you considered bankruptcy? Bankruptcy may sound like a dirty word, but don't be ashamed to learn about this option. You're not the first. Many people, even big corporations, file bankruptcy, which can provide you with a fresh start and relieve you of stress and anxiety that has taken over your life. Contact me, Attorney Andy Gould, at 603-434-3437. The law offices of Gould & Gould is a debt relief agency, so please call us to learn what we can do for you.
Hi, I'm Fred Afshar from Keller Williams in Bedford. I think the most efficient and effective way to serve my clients is through a well-tested process that produces excellence time after time. It involves constant communication through the entire process to answer any question they have through the method they prefer most: phone, email, instant messaging, or text. That keeps them updated and all of us on the same page to make the process go smoothly. If that's for you, give me a call at 548-8989 or look me up at hscalls.com.
Brian Macris for Residential Mortgage Services of Bedford.
As soon as the phone rings and I pick it up, the first thing the customer always asks is, what's your rate? What's your rate? What's your rate? And at Residential Mortgage Services, we try to focus on what's the lowest cost to borrow. There are many programs out there that can include grant programs, no monthly mortgage insurance, VA programs, and our goal is to find the best solution for you and your family.
Brian Macris is MLO number 107176, and Residential Mortgage Services, Inc. is an equal housing lender. NMLS number 1760 and is licensed by the New Hampshire Banking Department.
Hi, I'm Kim Denault of Keller Williams Real Estate. My main goal is complete satisfaction for my clients, because if they're happy, we'll probably work together again, and that's good for my business. Here's what Chris Beer said about our latest collaboration.
Going through a second transaction with Kim was like a breath of fresh air. We didn't know so much had changed in so little time. Thank you for keeping us up to date and making the transaction the smoothest we've ever encountered.
To learn more, call me at 345-7783. Look me up at nhseller.com or check out my ad in this week's Hippo Press.
Little celebration of John Bon Jovi there. Yes. And see, I'm quick. I don't know that I would have known that song, other than the fact that I put two and two together and know what Erin does when she's running the board back there. So thank you for that. Good topical entry into the program. Welcome back. This is Real Estate on the Radio. We're talking about advice for first-time buyers. We left it off at that point. So let's go to Beth first and just say, should people, when they know they're going to buy, they want to buy, they made the decision, they think we're ready for it, etc., what should be the first steps for them? Should they make a checklist? Should they just get a hold of an agent? What would you recommend them to do, or for them to do?
I would recommend that they call a realtor, someone maybe that they're referred to, or myself. And I would then guide them to a mortgage broker. At the same time, we do have Brian Macris in the office, and he's there with a staff that can take a very last-minute appointment. And together we would start the process and start collecting their information, and really it starts with, them approving and having their credit run and seeing if they qualify. And then, we kind of work it backwards and look at, if you were going to pay this for rent, this is what you can afford for a home and what's your comfort level. Because not always do you necessarily purchase what you're pre-approved for. I've had clients that have been pre-approved for $350,000, but when they look at that on paper and it's broken down as to what their monthly mortgage is going to be, that's aggressive. That's an aggressive number for them. So even though they have the purchase power of $350,000, they may feel more comfortable being at $250,000. So we work the numbers and we try to come to a conclusion that this is what your monthly mortgage would look like. And we look at that from a tax point, from a buying point as to how many thousands they're going to be purchasing. And then we look at their location, we look at the size of a home, their needs, bedrooms, bathrooms, land, country, city, and we sort of start putting all of those characteristics together. And at Keller Williams, you can get all of that done in one place.
Hey, Kristi, let me ask you, do people come to you with the certainty that they're going to buy, or do some people come looking for, I don't want guidance for you to reaffirm that they're able to go forward and buy a home from a financial standpoint? I mean, you're tackling from a financial standpoint first. Do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have guided and coached people as to whether or not purchasing is right for them. Some people come gung-ho and they're ready to buy and they know what they want, and that's fantastic. And some people come and, they don't understand the process and they really need hand-holding and guidance, and we can do that also. And I think that, just like Beth said, it's really important that the agent that you work with has access to a great team, being, Monarch Title, Residential Mortgage Services. We have the ability to really sit down and piece all of the puzzle pieces together, if you will. And because we work so closely with all of these, each individual person that's involved in the transaction, it makes the transaction go much smoother. And I've had a lot of people actually say, if we had known it was going to be this easy, we would have done it a long time ago. And that's part of it.
There's a lot of people who say that.
Yeah, there's this underlying fear of buying, and everyone has heard some sort of a nightmare story, and they happen. But they're the oddity. They're not the norm. And so I think to have to go through it on your own and have a really good team behind you is really important.
Laura, what's the first thing someone, to generalize, they're considering their first-time buyer, what's the first thing that first question they ask you? Is there a first question, or what is their demeanor when they come to you?
Normally, if they're well prepared, I'll have a list of questions. Majority of them being when the first time, looking is the expectations or what, the process. Because a lot of them obviously haven't purchased anything, so this is very new to them. Our job, one of our biggest jobs, I'm sure Beth and Kristi can agree, is informing them and educating them of the actual purchasing a home process. There's a lot of things that come along the way, additional costs, home inspections, water, radon. There's a slew of other inspections that come up along the way that they have to pay for right then and there. Appraisal fees that, again, so things that they have to be aware of up front. So it's really a lot of kind of educating them. So they kind of have a couple of questions, but I really tone in and target, as long as the other ladies, I'm sure, is setting the expectations for what happens along the way and what other need of funds, not only just the mortgage, but monies that you'll need from here to the closing table.
I mean, I know I would respond to what Beth said well. When I bought for the first time, it was nothing like that. But I would respond to laying out the financial picture on what, where the ceiling is that we can afford, how much certain things are. And then I would take a look at that number and then say, all right, I'm willing to spend that. What can that get me? From my standpoint, and I'm a focus group of one, but from my standpoint, that's the best way for me to do it, because then I have a sense that now I can start looking at these places, and I kind of like to shop anyway, so I'd like to look at a lot of places, but I'd like to know the money angle out of the way right off the bat. So I would respond to that. And then the issue of closing costs, you kind of, it's kind of out there, points and other things, and you're going, all right, how much is that going to cost me? Andy, do people, just people in everyday life walk around, what if people who are thinking about first-time buyers, have you ever run into that, those kind of people, do they have questions for you from a legal standpoint?
Some do, yeah. I mean, in terms of inspections, very important. And again, that's another team player that you want to rely on your initial experts to get you a good home inspector, because I've had a lot of people come to me after the closing, not a lot, but, it happens, that have issues with the property. And sometimes they're small, sometimes they're big, but that's not a good starting point to have that, right, experience. So you want to make sure you have somebody you can trust to do a good home inspection, because if they're a first-time home buyer, chances are they're buying a house that has some blemishes, and the cosmetic stuff maybe not so important, but the foundation and all the structures are very important. And you may need more than one inspector. You may need somebody to look at the septic or look at the well. I bought my own house, and I didn't do a real thorough job on the well. And right after I bought it, the pump went, and that was a good expense. It was like, a few grand to replace a well.
What's the recourse? You all of a sudden find out something in the home that you're in.
Unless there's a disclosure, the recourse is tough. You got to go after these people that sold it to you if there was a misrepresentation. That's your recourse. But if they represented things, and if they didn't know about things, it's very hard to go after the seller on those kind of problems. And sometimes these sellers move to parts unknown or another state, so good luck chasing them.
They go incognito.
I actually had windows in my house that were blowing up, believe it or not.
Really?
And they were the builder. I bought I didn't build my house, but the builder put in these reject windows, and they would heat up and explode. The seller knew that. He replaced like 10 of them, and then I had to replace 10. I could have gone after the seller, but he was in Florida.
Right.
I just sucked it up. But that leaves a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth in terms of that option.
Kristi? How do you approach the issue of home inspectors and what their responsibility is to the buyer? Who does a home inspector work? Works for the buyer, right?
The home inspector works for the buyer. The buyer is going to hire that inspector. We want to make sure that depending on the property, there's a well and septic test done, that they do water quality if it's not public water, and the bones of the house. I mean, it's really important that you have a solid house. I prefer to use inspectors who have actually, gotten their hands dirty and built homes and been in that side of the world as well, because to me that just means that they know what they're looking at. And it's an added layer of protection, in my opinion. But there's plenty of really good inspectors out there, and they're going to make sure that they do the best job for the buyer and, walk through the house with the buyer, show them things. And a good inspector is also going to point out things that are just general maintenance that you're going to have to do along the way. Like, if your windowsills on the exterior of the house are wood, you're going to have to seal them and paint them every, few years and that sort of thing. And so it's really nice to have that checklist after you close also for a first-time home buyer so that they know what the maintenance is. Because a lot of times they're getting into these situations and they've never maintained a home before.
Beth, if you're in the process and the home inspector comes back to your buyer and says, we have this problem, you have this problem, and it's going to add an expense, what is your advice and where do you take it from there?
Well, each situation being totally different from each other, but from a general standpoint, once your home inspection is done, you review your home inspection. It comes to you in a nice, typically typed report that you can look at. It's organized. If there are some real hot buttons for that buyer who didn't expect to see certain things show up and they bother the buyer and they're what I call deal breakers, we will put together an addendum that's presented to the seller requesting certain items to either be replaced or repaired, fixed, reinstalled, whatever the wording might be. And then and when you do that, you're then renegotiating the contract. And you got to be kind of careful because once you do renegotiate that contract, it does open up the door for another buyer that may have been in the wings, that the seller can then go out and say, hey, we just had some inspection items come up and, they're renegotiating with us and, what would you like to come in and it does, so it does open up the door to that. But at the same time, the buyer has to feel okay with moving forward and going to the next step. And sometimes we ask for those things to be repaired, and sometimes we use money in lieu of those repairs because sometimes you don't want that person going and repairing or reinstalling. You want to do those items yourself. So there's a lot of different solutions we will come upon throughout the process when an inspection shows some deficiencies or some deferred maintenance, and it just depends on what you got the house for, and how savvy you are in the home buying process, and what your comfort level is, and is it a safety item? Is it just a deferred maintenance that's something that can wait, or is it is the house going to fall apart? Is your comfort level there? Is it not there? So every situation is totally different. But
certain things may rise to the level of a financing issue too. So
that's right.
If it's septic or it's something major, that's going to have to be dealt with.
So the home inspector, is it fair to say, is like a safety net for the buyer, or at least to kind of let you know what the real if you've got a good one, what the real story is with the house. I mean, my son just walked away from a sale on a house because the home inspector uncovered they needed to put $25,000 additionally into the home, and the guy was willing to do it, but my son wasn't willing to do it. So, is it safe to say the home inspector is vital to this process for the buyer?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we'll leave it there
Yeah.
since we have I can't say a rare consensus, but we do have a consensus on that. So we'll leave it here. We'll come back and we'll get more into some of the nitty-gritty of things you need to think about and what to do when you are buying a home for the first time.
Hi, I'm Kim Denault of Keller Williams. Hard work and using what I've learned through the years are very important to helping my clients find their dream home. It's always been my main focus, like with Kate White.
Kim was amazing. I was a challenging client and she won me over with her ethics and willingness to go above and beyond. She genuinely cares about her clients and I'll never use another real estate agent again. She's the best.
To learn more, call me, Kim Denault, at 345-7783 or look me up at nhseller.com.
Brian Macris for Residential Mortgage Services of Bedford.
As soon as the phone rings and I pick it up, the first thing the customer always asks is, what's your rate? What's your rate? What's your rate? And at Residential Mortgage Services, we try to focus on what's the lowest cost to borrow. There are many programs out there that can include grant programs, no monthly mortgage insurance, VA programs, and our goal is to find the best solution for you and your family.
Brian Macris is MLO number 107176, and Residential Mortgage Services, Inc. is an equal housing lender. NMLS number 1760 and is licensed by the New Hampshire Banking Department.
Hi, I'm Kristi Whitten of Keller Williams in Bedford. One of the best feelings is helping someone become a homeowner for the very first time, like Chuck.
I found the right townhome for my family thanks to Kristi's expertise and patience. My schedule didn't leave a lot of flexibility for showings, but Kristi always delivered. And when advising if I should make an offer, she always shared her honest opinion. I recommend Kristi to anyone.
So, if I can help you with your next move, please give me, Kristi Whitten, a call at 603-674-4985 or look me up at KristiWhitten.com.
Are you having trouble paying your mortgage, car loan, or other debts because of a financial crisis or loss? Are creditors harassing you on your cell or at home? Contact attorney Andy Gould with the law offices of Gould & Gould at 603-434-3437 for a free consultation to learn what legal rights you may have to respond to a foreclosure or other creditor claims. The law offices of Gould & Gould is a debt relief agency, so please call us to learn what we can do for you. 603-434-3437.
Bill Weidecker of Keller Williams in Bedford.
After 29 years in the real estate business, I'm a lot better now than I was when I started. When you've been involved in the sale of over 1,000 homes, you can't help but get better, as experience is a great teacher. It helps me integrate all the information that's out there to help buyers gain perspective on what they want and what's the best fit for them. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, give me, Bill Weidecker, a call at 661-7818 or look me up on the web at kw.com.
Fred Afshar of Keller Williams in Bedford.
2015 has arrived, and if you have been thinking of buying a new home, there may never be a better time. Interest rates and prices are still low, but both are on the rise. If I can help, either to start that process or talk about what lies ahead, give me, Fred Afshar, a call at 548-8989 or look me up at hscalls.com.
All right, welcome back to Real Estate on the Radio. We're providing advice for first-time buyers with an all-star panel of broker agents from Keller Williams. Beth Decato-Bolio, Kristi Whitten, and Laura Gamache are with us, and attorney Andy Gould is with us as well, providing superior legal
Thank you, Dave.
information for us in this program.
Keep doing that if I can.
We've answered the question of what these folks talk to first-time buyers about, the question of can I afford it, and counseling on how to do that and how they take you through that. But what about the issue of people who are wondering about their credit? It might be shaky. It may or may not be shaky, but there's a way to find that out. Or there's some folks who just pretty much believe they can't buy because they've had credit problems in the past. What do you suggest in that, Beth? How do you go about that if someone says that to you?
Well, I think it's unfortunate because a lot of people I feel this way don't come and talk to us. And I thought it was a good point to bring up is that if you do feel that way, it's better to come and talk to one of us so that we can get you linked up with people who can help you. And, there's so much information online about credit, and so much of what is online can be mistreated, your financial information. And so I wanted to bring it up because I've had a couple opportunities in the last 6 months where somebody has come to me and said, I want to purchase, Beth, but I know my credit's bad. I don't know how bad it is, but I've had a couple of things that have been written off in the last year, and I don't know where to go. I don't know who to turn to. And I hooked them up with Joe Gagnon of Residential Mortgage Services and Brian Macris, and they are actually purchasing 3 months later because some of the things that were on their credit were actually false, and they weren't things that they had done, but because they weren't able to understand how to read their credit until they had someone who does this for a living, they put them into a program, did a rapid rescore, had some letters written out for them. They went and did kind of what they called a scavenger hunt, where they were going and, finding out what the credit issue was, going to that creditor, telling them that had been paid off, getting a letter proving that it had been paid off. And the next thing you know, that person who was sitting at a 530, and I think this person had even said that for the last 3 years had been struggling with this. And in 3 months, after having talked to Joe and Brian, are now ready to purchase and are actually at 680 credit. So those kinds of stories are so... I think that maybe Laura and Kristi can also attest to some of this. If you just come and talk to somebody face to face instead of going online and doing this by yourself and not being confident who you're talking to, you can make the difference in your own credit score and be able to purchase a home in this wonderful market.
I just want to add to that too. Beth was kind of brought up a great topic. We're seeing a lot of people who are renting because they lost their home, foreclosure, short sale, etc. And now, because of the market is changing, and we're a few years out of that, recession, we'll call it, people have this whole image in their mind that I can't buy because I did a foreclosure or I had a short sale my house, whereas the actual time frame that they can go from doing that to then actually coming and being eligible to purchase a property is actually a shortening window. And again, obviously verifying through our lenders at RMS that we're just seeing a lot of buyers or potential clients that are able to actually purchase a home, whereas they didn't think that they could because they have that foreclosure and short sale on their record.
Bankruptcy would also be part of that there's a certain time frame now, and it's shortening, like Laura says, so that people, they call them the rebound buyers, and they're really a big market, a possible market for the the industry, that they'll come back into the market, believe it or not, to buy houses, and they're eligible, basically on these new these loan programs, FHA, and so as long as they've developed a good credit history since these things happened, that's kind of the qualifier.
Are there any myths, Kristi, that people come, or any, one myth more than anything else, or impression on the part of people who come to you and may have questions that is just not true and prevents them? What would those be?
I think for me,